Hello everyone and welcome back to part 6 in this coloured pencil tutorial. We're getting quite stuck into this now. I don't think it'll be too long before we've finished the face. So without further ado, like I always say, everything will be listed down below and let's just begin. The first thing that I want to do while it's fresh in my mind is I want to draw this little whisker in here where I missed it last time. Like that. Oh, I'm just using warm grey 1. Completely forgot to say that, but yeah, warm grey 1. Just to draw that whisker in there because it was bothering me when I looked back at the thumbnail and I realised that I hadn't actually done it. So next I'm going to carry on with this bit here. So I'm just going to use ivory. Let's get my rubber. I feel a bit disoriented today because I've put my desk flat and I usually have it on an angle, so everything feels a bit like weird. When you first put your desk on an angle it feels weird, and then when you go back to drawing flat again it feels weird. It literally feels like I'm like leaning downwards, it's that much of a change. But yeah, I was just filming something else, so I already had it flat. I'm just using ivory just to add a base all over there. Like that. And then I'm going to use nougat, and where I said last time I think I might need to define a bit more of this section, I am just going to do that now. Oh my gosh, it feels so different drawing on a flat surface. Just doing some little shapes. I think a bit more definition. Towards like this part. Just going to sharpen my pencil. Right. And this bit sort of like ends here and then it gets darker. So I'll just finish these little bits off. Just trying to make it a bit more defined. I feel like I'm pressing on harder because my desk is flat. Right, I think I need some more dark sepia. So I'm going to start adding that here towards this outer part. And I think I need a bit more just here in this little section. That's better. And I'll just blend that. Just adding loads of lines. So I'm just going to add a bit more, just randomly. Try not to make it too dark. I think I need a bit more raw umber. I think that's what is missing. So I'm just gonna add a bit of this in. Just add a bit more of a yellow tone. Right, I'm gonna move on now because I could spend forever trying to just make it perfect. So, I'm just gonna use nougat and I'm just gonna start adding some strokes towards the outer edge. And then I'm going to start building up a bit more of the fur around here. Just get a bit more like brown around here. It comes to like about there. So I'm just going to keep building up the fur and building up this outer edge. Just going to add a bit more ivory to that edge. And bring it up into these little sticky out bits. So I'm just going to crisscross the hairs over. Like this, just gradually building it up. just sort of doing a bit from each side till it gradually meets in the middle. Hope that you're all doing well, that you're still enjoying the tutorial. Today is Friday and it's not as nice today, so you can definitely tell it's getting into more autumn weather. It's so hard to talk and draw. Trying not to go too dark here because it is a little bit lighter. There we go. Right, got sepia time now, and I'm just wanting to put this little mark in before I lose it. So I'm just going to bring it down to about here. I feel like I have to hold my pencil differently when I'm drawing with a flat desk rather than an angled desk. Let me know if you draw flat or angled. It's not too bad if it's like short periods of time, but like over a long period of time I get a really achy back when I draw on a flat surface. Right, and now I'm just going to bring this section down with ivory. And then a bit of nougat just to map some hairs out again. Just blending that dark marking out. Leaving some lighter strokes visible, like this one here. Give that a bit more definition. Like a little darker patch here. And it's a bit more browny on this top edge. Right, I'm going to use dark sepia again now and start adding in a bit more depth and the usual, just defining it a bit more. Just going to focus it first on these more obvious dark patches. So it like comes around here a little bit. Then I'm going to put a bit on these edges where it's a bit darker. Pressing really lightly now, just so it don't go too dark. And just there. And then there's a few darker little bits. Just gonna add a few more in here. Like that. There's a few darker little bits just dotted around. I'm just gonna add some strokes in. They're a bit more like few and far between here, they're a bit harder to see. I'll just start adding them in. in here and there. And I definitely need some raw umber in there now, concentrating a lot of it to this like top part. Like that. Might just put a bit more nougat and dark sepia through it now. Just to add a few more of those strokes that have got lost. So this is nougat. I think it's probably more dark sepia that I need though. Not quite dark enough that. Right, now I think I'm going to move on and I might come back to that section after. Just adding a bit more nougat here. So, I'm going to move on to this bit here. So now, as usual, I'm just going to use ivory as a base. And slightly dab that marking, and then I'm just going to add a bit more. So between these two markings there is a little whisker there that I'll make sure to remember. So I'm just going to use dark sepia and just add this little marking in. Just leaving some lighter hairs because there are quite a few I can see on this bit. Then I'm going to use Nougat and just going to start mapping out the fur between these two markings now. Just making sure to, as always, just follow the direction the fur is in the picture. And I'm just going to slightly draw around that whisker. I've drawn around that too dark actually. Just going to dab it off a little bit. And slightly draw under it as well. Like that. And I'm just going to start adding Nougat underneath as well. Few more in there, and I think I'm going to use some more dark sepia just to add a few more strokes wherever it needs it. And I'm going to start with this marking here. Like that, and definitely some raw umber again. There it is, raw umber, and concentrating it near those markings. especially up towards this side. Gets a lot warmer around the edge of the face. And just around this marking too. Like that. That is looking good. And now I think I'm going to start moving down to these bits here. So let's think about this. Yeah, I'm going to use ivory. Well, first of all, I'm going to add that little dot in with dark sepia just so I can see where it is. So I'm literally just going to add the tiniest little first strokes like that. Then I've not lost it, it's still there, and I'm going to use ivory as a base around it. Like so. And then I'm going to use this colour, Apricot from the Pablos. I think I used it in a different part of this tutorial. And I'm just going to start adding that nice peachy tone. Into that corner of the nose. Just really lightly adding that in. Such a lovely colour. I'm kind of doing like little first strokes with it. Like that. And I think I'm going to add some burnt ochre. I'll try it. Just a little bit of burnt ochre for a tiny bit more definition. One of those, probably not necessary, but I'll give it a go. I think that just sort of blends those two bits together nicely. Yeah, I think that worked well actually. So what I'm going to start doing now is adding a bit of nougat to map the fur here. So really tiny little fur strokes, and I'm following the direction of the fur. Like that, and just going to bring it down a little bit. Tell you what, my back is getting sore already. This is the last time that I draw flat. just going to bring a few just trying to like blend it all together a little bit. And I'm going to now add in those other little dots. So I think I'm going to do a row at a time, just keep it less confusing. So dark sepia, tiny little strokes on those dotty bits where the whiskers come out of. Like that, and ivory again, just on the yellowy bit. I'm not going to bring it down too far, just because it's a bit more of like a white section of fur there. Just going to bring it to about here. And I'm going to use some more of that apricot colour from the Pablos and bring that nice peachy tone down a little bit. Like that. I love that colour. And I'm going to use a bit more nougat now to start adding in the first strokes here. There's sort of like darker here, but then there's a few sparse ones there. So I'm just going to concentrate it around here. That. Then just bring it down a little bit. And add a few here. Like that, and I'm just going to start adding a few more up here actually. Like that. Then I'm going to do the same at this side like I always do, just so it's even. So I kind of rubbed the pencil lines away a bit at this side, so I think that first one is around here. Then the next one around there, and there's one here. Like that. So I'm going to use ivory. Just to the base. I'll bring it to around here. And then I use that lovely apricot colour. Just start bringing it down. Like that. Let's bring it down a little bit further. And then I'm actually going to add a little bit of shadow to the bottom of the cat where it's like the face meets the floor or whatever it's lying on. So I'm just going to use dark sepia, and hopefully you can see that. I'm just going to sort of like not outline but just add like a more of a defined edge. Where that face meets the floor. Sort of just doing like little fur strokes. Like that. Just going to bring it up slightly. Kind of like soften it, the edge. Just kind of like feathering it out a little bit so it's not too harsh on the edge. Like that. So, just bring it this way a little bit. And I'm going to use nougat now. I just want to round this corner off a little bit because it looks a bit pointy. Like that. It's a bit better. Like that. And now I'm going to map some more fur strokes for this little section. That. Just sort of doing a few over these little dark circles, or little dots, whatever you'd want to call them, just so they're a bit more like it blended out. And now I'm going to use some dark sepia and just darken up this little corner, tiny little bit, and the edge of the cat's cheek. I feel like I might even add a few more here while I'm at it. Kind of just doing some backwards and forwards motions just to try and blend it a little bit. Like that. Just gonna add more of a defined edge there. There. Okay, I think now is a good time to finally do the nose. It's time. So I'm just going to use dark sepia, and like we did here, I'm just going to outline pretty much outline the whole nose. I'm not pressing too hard. And just going to leave it a tiny bit there. And there is like a dark line on the nose, so I'll just add that in. And make sure there's no pencil marks or like any smudging on there. And then I'm going to use beige red as a base. So literally just gonna colour that whole nose. I'm pressing on quite hard in beige red. Like that. Then I'm going to use burnt ochre and make sure it's a really short pencil, and it's to give it more of like an orangey peachy tone. I'm just going to do teeny tiny little circular motions to start building up more of an orange tone. Concentrating it on the top of the nose to begin with. Like that. And I'm going to do it in bits, like around the edge of this line. And then just bring it down, sort of like blend it out into the main bit of the nose. Sort of on the edge. Blending it into the middle. Blending it from that middle line upwards. So it kind of gives the illusion of like a slight shadow. Very subtly, but it's there. I actually have the heater on today. That's how autumny it's getting. Okay. Now I'm going to use nougat and just do the exact same thing again, just building up more of like a brown shadowy colour. Focusing a lot of it on the top. See how it's really just gradually building up a bit of like a shadowy 3D kind of effect. If that's a good description. And do a bit on this middle part. And a little bit more on that bottom left edge. I'm going to do a little bit, bring it down a little bit more to the middle. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to carry on with the bit sort of around the nose. So I'm going to darken up that line there and darken up this bit here. Just gonna bring it out a little bit, and same at this side. Bring it out a tiny bit. Like that. and I think I'm going to start on this bottom left side, and I'm just going to do a tiny bit of ivory just around the edge. Careful not to smudge into that darker bit because it can go a bit like patchy and messy. Like that. And I'm going to use a little bit of that apricot colour just to add a bit of an orangey peachy tone. Just bringing it out from underneath the nose. And then I'm going to use nougat, good old nougat. Literally like one of my most used colours. Just going to start bringing out some strokes. And I'm going to use dark sepia just to blend the dark bit into the rest of the section. Like that, and then I am just going to add a little bit of white to the nose, just a tiny bit. Where is my white? I'll just use the luminance one because I can't find my museum aquarelle. No idea where that's gone. So I'm just going to use the luminance white and just slightly just lighten this bit here. Just doing those little swirly motions like that, just to make it look a bit more 3D, like that. Very subtle, but sometimes you don't need to do a lot. Then I'm going to carry on bringing this section down, so where the other little dots are here, just gonna use nougat because they're not as dark. Use nougat to just add them in. Like that. And then use ivory. If you keep hearing that noise, by the way, it's me just zooming in on the picture on my laptop. and then use ivory. Just bring it down a bit. And then I'm going to use nougat again and just add in a few more strokes. And a few more. It's a little bit darker here, so I am just going to darken it up a little bit there. Like that, and I think I will just add a bit of burnt ochre. I just need a bit more of an orangey tone. If you don't have apricot, just use burnt ochre. Just be slightly less peachy, that's fine. And I'm just going to bring that out to like here. Maybe down here slightly, just very subtly. Right, and then I'm going to use dark sepia just here to start adding some detail. To strengthen the outline and just start adding some really subtle first strokes. Just going to outline this bit a little bit more as well. And the first strokes sort of like come down, so like in this direction. Hopefully you can see that. And then I'm just sort of following the direction of them. Bring it down slightly there, just to keep some of that. I'm going to use a bit of warm grey 1 just to start blending some strokes into this white section. It's really subtle, but it just makes it look a bit less harsh than if you just have dark sepia. And I'm just going to use a little bit of dark sepia again, just to add a bit more definition. Like that. And same at this side. I'm doing those little triangle shapes because I'm leaving little gaps for hers, which makes it look more realistic and detailed. And I'm going to bring the dark sepia along the bottom again, just blending it up in places to create that nice soft shadow. Sort of like gets a bit less strong there, so I'll just gradually blend it in. And now I'm going to use a bit of nougat, just add a few strokes around here. Just to like blend it all together. Do a few on the bottom. And it's like a few, creates like a little subtle line going down here, like that. And just so it doesn't look too strong, I might dab it with my putty eraser a tiny bit, just so it's not too harsh. Like that. And there's a little bit of like a blue tone on the bottom of, on like this little bit of the mouth. So I'm just going to use cold grey too and blend it upwards. It's these like really subtle different colours that just bring it to life and make all the difference. I'm just going to do a bit at both sides. There we go. And I'm just going to bring this little bit out as well. So I'm going to use ivory, which I will bring to around here. And then I'll use some dark sepia. Start adding some strokes. going to bring it down here slightly. Like that. And I'm actually going to bring this ivory down here a little bit more. And now I'm going to use warm grey 1 again, just to start adding some little hairs. I just there's a little bit of like muck smudging. So I'm just going to start adding in some little fur strokes. It's sort of like concentrated more around this inner section. Just blending them out. Just adding a tiny few strokes there. And now I'm going to use apricot again, just to bring that peachy tone down a bit more. And then nougat again, just gonna add some strokes in here. And start bringing some more strokes out here. Like that. And I'm just going to bring the mouth down a little bit more here with some dark sepia. Like that, really subtle. And then I'm going to add a bit more cold grey too, just to the bottom. Like that. I think that is starting to look really good now, so I think for today I'm going to leave it at that. I don't feel like it looks as though we've done much, but I suppose what we have done has been quite intricate, so I think finish the face on the next video and we'll be able to crack on to the body next. So I hope you've enjoyed this part, and as always, it'd be a great help if you liked this video and subscribed, and leave me any comments if you've got any questions or yeah, anything. So I'll see you next time for part 7.